Hey out there, legal warriors. In this video, I'm going to cover 3 ways to avoid going to jail in a criminal case in Washington State. There's probably more than 3, but there's 3 ways I want to cover. One is obvious and the other 2 aren't so obvious. So if you're interested in this area of the law, stay tuned because this is the video for you. My name is Attorney Lance Fryrear, and I'm a defense attorney in Lynnwood, Washington. My law firm has been defending people charged with crimes for more than 20 years all throughout Washington State. And I'm putting out these videos to help educate the public. So if you find this video useful, please like and please subscribe. More people will get the help they need. Now, as always, I'm just going to jump right into it. What are the 3 ways? Well, the first way is going to be using alternative programs that are in lieu of classical prosecution. Not everyone knows that those exist. The second way is using alternative forms of punishment should we be convicted that avoid jail time. Not everyone knows those exist. And step 3 is the more obvious one. The third way, is just avoid a conviction altogether. And what is the best defense strategy for most cases to avoid conviction? So, number 1, I'm starting with the 2 unusual ones that aren't so well known. Take advantage of alternative programs that let us avoid conviction altogether. For many misdemeanor level courts, for non-felony courts, there are things called stipulated orders of continuance, or diversion programs, very similar, or friendship diversion. Things where the prosecutor has the ability to either put you into a program where you can, what I say, jump through some hoops, do some community service, do some treatment, do some things to earn your way to a reduced charge or a dismissal. So SOC, stipulated order of continuances, are contracts that you agree to with the prosecutor and the court enforces. Friendship diversion might be a whole nother program that the court refers you to. There's also community court for some places. Seattle has something like that. Redmond has something like that. There's different ways to qualify for alternative programs that you have to be referred to typically to try to avoid conviction and therefore, of course, avoid jail. A couple more that come to mind are mental health court. Several counties have mental health court where we can refer someone where the crime is caused by a mental health problem to mental health court, where if they do a certain amount of treatment and do the right things, they can get their case dismissed. There's also drug court. Certain counties have drug court where if it's a nonviolent crime, often caused by drug usage, then stealing, things like that, possession offenses, usually not sales, then perhaps you can get referred to drug court where you do treatment in lieu of being convicted. So those are some ways to avoid going to jail. Use those alternative programs that exist. So ask your attorney about it, ask your public defender if you have one. You can even ask the prosecutor if you're not represented, are there any alternative programs that I might qualify for given my lack of any criminal history or the type of case I have. So number 2 that I already mentioned, which is alternative forms of punishment in lieu of jail time. Well, the first one that we can think of is community service, right? Even at the felony level, certain types of crimes can have up to 30 days of jail time converted to community service. That might be a lot of community service. Often it's 8 hours per one day, but that is something that can be granted by the court. And why would a court do it? It costs money to put people in jail. If we have a chance for someone to give back to the community versus paying to house them, sometimes it makes sense for the community service to be ordered. Additionally, for misdemeanors, there's something called work crew. Sometimes in lieu of jail, they can be ordered to do work crew, which is like community service, but it's like structured. We show up and there's a member of the government that controls what we do. We're going to pick up garbage on the side of the road. We're going to clean up this park. It's inconvenient in that we're being told where to go and what to do, but it's convenient in that it's being set up for us, because sometimes it's hard to find community service hours, right? It's hard to find where to do community service. Maybe a food bank has time or a shelter, but not all places do, and so sometimes work crew might be a good option. What's another way to avoid jail? Well, what about electronic home monitoring? Many courts offer electronic home monitoring in lieu of jail, and so it's sort of like you're being sentenced to watch TV at your house, but you are allowed still to leave the house to go to your treatment, maybe to go to your church, and to go to work. So it's way better than being locked up in a jail. Not every type of charge can get home detention, but many places do offer home detention, usually at your expense, but way better than jail. Way better than jail, obviously. And I think the other way that we can do it is something called work release. And so that's still usually being in a jail. Work release is not often that much anymore, but work release is, hey, I'm going to be in some type of facility that this government controls when I'm not at work, but otherwise I'm allowed to go to work. So oftentimes it's a separate facility in the normal jail. Sometimes it's a normal jail, but it's something else to look at is work release, because if we're out and about and we're not in the normal jail, that's better than regular jail. So that's the second thing we can do to avoid going to jail on a criminal charge. The third thing is more obvious: avoid ever being sentenced to jail, avoid ever being convicted or even sentenced to jail. And so that gets pretty broad, and I'm going to give you a few things to think about. So obviously your attorney is going to negotiate to keep you from being convicted, but let's say it's a really strong case against you. Let's say it's a pretty bad case and it looks like you're going to be convicted. Well, will you go to jail? Lance, I've got a bad record. The prosecutor's going to put me in jail. Well, something to think about. The more that you're doing positive at the time of your sentencing, the less likely the court is going to want to sentence you to jail to keep you out of doing what you're doing positive. If it's an alcohol problem, and if you've actually started alcohol treatment and you're doing great in alcohol treatment, the court is less likely to sentence you to jail to mess up all that alcohol treatment that you're doing that's hopefully going to keep you from ever being in front of the court again, right? The same way if you're doing domestic violence treatment or something like that. Do a good job and be compliant with some type of really respectable and decent program that will give the court a reason not to interrupt that program by throwing you in jail. Also, you can point out things like, hey, I'm the sole support of the kid in my family. I'm the sole support of the family. If, are there some alternatives you can give me so I can keep my job and there aren't other people punished besides me if I go to jail? And of course, avoiding conviction is the main way to ever end up being put in jail. And we've got a lot of videos on how we avoid convictions and criminal charges. It's a three-step process. One is we need some time to pass. Two is we need the client to do some things so the prosecutor can feel they've responded to the case. And three, we need to talk about the defenses to the case. We put that all together, and hopefully we can avoid a conviction that keeps you out of jail. So I hope you found this useful. It is not hopeless. Believe it or not, most people do not end up going to jail for criminal matters, especially if they get good legal help. And so hopefully that's not where you ever end up. So if you find this useful, please like and please subscribe. More people will get the help they need. And more importantly, if you have a legal problem, a criminal matter in Washington State, feel free to reach out to my firm. We'll listen to what happened, we'll identify a way forward, and we will be there for you. Thank you.